How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope, this time for November 21st through the 27th of 2022. My name is Cam White, and we have an exciting week ahead. Probably one of the best weeks of this year so far, but this year's about to end, so arguably the best week this year. Before we get started, I have a quick special announcement. Over on my website, if you've been thinking about booking a consultation with me and knowing what 2023 has in store for you, I'm offering 20% off right now from today. Since you're watching this on Sunday morning, this will be available till Tuesday night. So for all the early people that watch this horoscope first, this is available for you guys. Use coupon code 2023 when you check out. Again, the coupon is 2023. You'll get 20% off of my consultation. I look forward to speaking with you guys and getting you hyped up and knowing exactly and letting you guys know exactly what's going to be ahead of you for 2023. So with that being said, this week is an exciting week. This week we have Mercury conjoining Venus. And I've been saying this for quite some time now. Mercury will be conjoining Venus. Not exactly this week it happens exactly, but they will be pretty much within a degree or two of each other all the way through Sagittarius and all the way through Capricorn until the next Mercury retrograde. So this transit's actually going to last quite a long time, and it is, arguably positive. I just really like this one in particular because it's Venus and Sag, and all the fire signs like the fire stuff, right? But this week we have the new moon in Sagittarius, and I'll dive more into it, once we actually start talking about it, because it's super, super positive. But at the same time that this new moon happens, like literally within the exact same hour, I believe, Jupiter stations direct. If you've been looking for any type of hope or any type of symbol in the astrology that things are going to get better, this is the week to really look at your life and go, where can I begin new? Where can I increase things? Where can I start things again and make them better? This week has so many positive aspects to it. So let's get started. We're starting off on Monday with the moon ingressing into Scorpio, as well as our first highlight of the week, which is Mercury conjoining Venus. Now, again, Mercury is going to be conjoining Venus for quite some time. I really believe the conjunction actually ends the end of December. So from the rest of November and all of December, Mercury and Venus are going to be with each other. Pretty cool stuff. But one of the issues with Monday is on Monday, it's still going to be the Scorpio season, right? The sun's at that last degree of Scorpio. We might have that angst. We might have that anger. I've talked about this before, but Scorpio, I like to imagine it as like, let's imagine there's a big rubber band right here. And above this rubber band, there's all these positive, happy feelings, love, abundance, joy, whatever you want to say. And below is, anger, depression, resentment, all of the negative stuff, right? The process of Scorpio is pulling that rubber band down all the way to the bottom. And when we get to that last degree of the sun being in Scorpio, it's this moment of letting go of all of that shit, right? Some of you most of you know that Frozen. I almost forgot the name of the movie, but let it go. As the sun goes into Sagittarius, which will happen tomorrow and Tuesday, that's that process of that rubber band shooting off and going into all the happy, positive stuff, right? However, as the sun's in Scorpio, we still kind of have that angst, we still kind of have that anxiety, and that continues with the moon ingressing into Scorpio. Now, it's interesting that we're going to have both luminaries in the sign of the South Node, so there'll still be a little bit of eclipse energy kind of lingering around. This isn't an eclipse or anything like that, but it's still kind of there, that, that resentment, that wanting to it's the Scorpio stuff in the South Node is like you're holding on to things that you should let go of, and you don't really want to let go of them, but you're tired and it's getting exhausting holding on to things that no longer serve you. So as the moon goes into Scorpio, that feeling is going to continue. I talk a lot about the moon being Scorpio as that gut-wrenching feeling a little bit like, emotionally vulnerable. One of my favorite ways to explain the moon in Scorpio is if you're leaning back in a chair, let's say, you're in class or whatever, and you're leaning back in a chair and it kind of starts to fall backwards and your heart sinks to your stomach. That's like the moon in Scorpio, right? But this is a little bit different because we're getting ready for the new moon in Sagittarius at this time. So we're kind of prepping for, and again, I'll talk about the new moon once we get to it here on Wednesday or Thursday or whenever it is. It's really exciting stuff, but in order to get there has to be one more purge. There has to be one more process of getting rid of stuff and letting go of all of the bullshit that you need to. But this time it's a little bit different. The last few weeks, we've had Mercury and Venus both in Scorpio. So our mental energy, our will, our and even Venus, our desires have been focused in the Scorpio place, where it's very, I got a couple of comments that were like, oh, you're super negative about Scorpio. And, I try to be positive about it sometimes, but it's not like it's like the most positive, best sign ever. Like, it deals with negative stuff. And just because you're a Scorpio or you have Scorpio placements, that doesn't mean anything necessarily inherently bad. However, those could be negative experiences that you can deal with more often than not. But anyway, Mercury is going to be conjoining Venus. I saw a comment actually just now. I was reading my last week's comments. Someone said that they were having this internet outage at work, so they just did a Hail Mary and just unplugged it and plugged it back in, and everything kind of worked. Very Mercury and Sagittarius in the sense of, I don't know what the solution is, so let me just kind of wing it and see what happens. The reason I bring that up is as Venus is in Sagittarius, and we're all about, Venus is fun, enjoyment, art, music, recreation, creativity, love, relationships. It's in Sagittarius. Venus is using the tools of Jupiter to do her job, and Venus's job is to connect. Venus's job is to indulge, and she's in the sign of Jupiter, right? Going big or going home, looking at things through a much more philosophical lens. And there's a lot of fun and excitement there, right? Now, as Mercury conjoins Venus, Mercury, about rationale, understanding, logistics, is in detriment, which means, if Mercury's all about like communicating in like black and white details, Sagittarius is all about like bigger ideals and philosophy. And there's a lot of things in philosophy that rationale just can't explain. That's why Mercury finds its detriment here, because Mercury can't, articulate or at least rationalize some bigger ideals, right? Like sometimes you just have to, here's me with my Jesus analogies again. Let Jesus take the wheel, let go and let God. And it's hard to rationalize that stuff, but there's, truth in that. There's a reason why those kind of sayings have lasted for millennia for humans. Now, as Mercury conjoins Venus, there is this kind of understanding our wants, understanding our desires, right? Venus is all this fun, and Mercury conjoining it is a message from Venus, right? It's almost as if, if Mercury is the communicator and Mercury is the messenger, Venus has a message and Mercury is going to be delivering it. Now, it's Mercury in Sagittarius. It might be like when you're, everyone, all the guys, maybe the girls will understand, but all the guys know, like when you're out drinking with your buddies, everyone's got like a grand business plan that, they want to spiel out to you, and, they'll probably never do it, but it sounds good to talk about. That's kind of like Mercury and Sagittarius on Venus of like, well, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm thinking about. And there are creative exercises that are really important to getting to a certain rationale. Like what I'm trying to say here is, as Mercury conjoins Venus, use that creativity, use that, this is a time to get out of your head. This is a time to expand the way that you look at things. And nothing really has to make sense right now, but it's all about attaching things to a certain vision, to a certain belief, and trusting that belief more than you trust the rationale, right? It's kind of like, it's really easy for us to rationalize ourselves into these pits that, keep us stuck. And that's what Sagittarius is like not about. It's about like, hey, you just need to take that leap of faith and try it anyway. But we're talking about Venus stuff here. We're talking about enjoyment, pleasure, fun, art, music. What do you want to do? Where is your soul like feeling this urge to create or to go out into a certain direction? As Mercury conjoins Venus, there's a very clear understanding of what that is. And as Mercury conjoins Venus too, it's like, again, I think the best way to use this energy would be like using that creativity of like, let's just dream big. Let's just go big or go home. Something I like to tell people in my consultations is like, okay, if you have a certain goal that you want to get to in life, or let's say you're like, I want to own a business. It's like, okay, well, that's not good enough. What do you want to achieve out of that business? How much money do you want to make? Do you want to, is it like a retail business? Is it like an online business? What you want to do is you want to find the very end point of what you want to do, and you want to reverse engineer your way back there. And it's really easy to make your goals very small when you're looking at things from a forward perspective. Like, oh, well, I just want to make like a little bit of, extra money on the side. I just want to have a little bit of side hustle. Well, that will look much harder to do when you are just looking at it in front of you versus if you say, you know what, let me just dream big. I want to own a multi-million-dollar business, or I want to have X, Y, and Z. It really doesn't matter what it is. Figure out what that highest goal is and reverse engineer your way back to where you are now. Like, okay, if you want to own a business, it's like, and you, let's say you make $1 million a year owning this business. Okay, what kind of business is it? What kind of assets do you have to have? Well, in order to have those assets, what do you have to do to get there? In order to have the time to create this business, what do you have to do? Do you need to be working more hours? Do you need to get a different job? Do you need to do whatever it is that you need to do? Reverse engineer your way there. I like Mercury and Sagittarius for reverse engineering, but I also like this Mercury-Venus conjunction for just using it for creativity. Like, don't limit yourself. As I've been in the process of making music, I'm also working on since I have the camera and the setup, I'm going to be doing all my own music videos, and so I've been learning a lot about just creative direction. And something that I learned was a lot of the times, whether it's a music video or a movie, these directors and these artists have these like hash out sessions where essentially anyone can say whatever random idea. It's not stupid, it's not dumb, and they play with that idea and see if it's going to work or not. But it's kind of like this creative session is just, let's just throw out ideas and see what happens, no matter how crazy or ridiculous they sound. Monday is a really good day for that. Now, tying that to the moon being in Scorpio, it's going to be hard. Like when you have to challenge your creativity, it's not always easy. I'm a very creative person and I still struggle with actually being creative because I have my own self-limiting beliefs. I have my own problems that come with that. And so Monday is a really good challenge day to say, you know what, you should be creative, go big or go home, but you're still going to have this issue with it. It's not going to just come to you naturally. You're going to have to go through this purging process and getting out of your own way. And especially moon in Scorpio, if you want to share an idea, you're going to be like, I don't want to share this idea. I'm going to look dumb. It's stupid. And, what if no one likes it? And, this person and X, Y, and Z, you're going to have to go through this like getting over yourself phase. Like something I really like to talk about with the moon in Scorpio is you have to get over it. You can hold on to that stuff all day long and it's only going to hurt you more than it hurts everybody else. Just let it go. Move on. Forgive. I talked about that last week. Forgiveness is for you, not for the other person. As we go into Tuesday, the sun will then move into Sagittarius. The moon will conjoin the south node. It will go opposite Uranus and it will square Saturn. So we still have some technical, maybe not technical difficulties is the best word, but you're going to get wrenches thrown in your plan, right? Just because you're setting foot on a new adventure doesn't mean and you have all this hope and faith in it, doesn't mean you're not going to have obstacles thrown in your way. And that's what Tuesday's really all about, is having to deal with obstacles. Now, the first thing is the sun goes into Sagittarius, right? That is that releasing feeling, just fucking getting out of there, moving on. It's like if you've ever dealt with if you don't like your family members and you have to deal with like a family situation, it's like the second you can kick out the door or kick open the door and leave, it's like, oh, finally, freedom. I can now do what I want and everything just feels so much better because, when you compare it to the, self-containing situation that you had to be in, anything feels better than being in that. So you can just be hanging out with the cool cousin. It's like, oh, finally freedom. I don't have to talk to all these weirdos. As the sun goes into Sagittarius, the sun is our will, our like literal solar energy, right? Like what is energizing us here? And as we go into Sagittarius season, this is about believing. This is about having faith. This is about seeing the bigger picture. So there's a lot of positive stuff to this. But as the moon conjoins the south node, there is this understanding that you have to let go of stuff. Monday seems much more like emotionally tumultuous. God, sometimes I can't speak. But as the moon as the moon conjoins the south node, that pain and that resentment just doesn't do it for you anymore. Like, for example, when we get to 2023, and if you've watched my 2023 year ahead horoscopes, you know that next year we're going to be having a Mars Cazimi in Scorpio. There are some times where pain and resentment can energize you, right? Like it's kind of like going revenge mode. Scorpio is very revenge mode. But there's other times where like holding on to that pain and that resentment drains your energy. And I want you to kind of think about on Tuesday, if you have all this, all of a sudden you wake up on Tuesday and you want to do this, you want to do that, but you still have something holding you back. And maybe it's that pain. Maybe you're just not over it yet. You gotta have to get over it. And the moon conjoining the south node is an excellent time to just let it go, let it drain out. Sometimes, you need to let that go on a physical level, whether that's, punching a pillow or crying or whatever it is. But the only thing is the moon's going to conjoin the south node, right? So you're going to like, all right, I'm over this. But then the moon is going to oppose Uranus and square Saturn. You are going to be a challenge so quickly. Like you can be like, all right, I'm ready for all this freedom. I'm ready to go. I'm going to get rid of my emotional baggage. And then you're going to be immediately faced with the challenge. And it's going to be, the challenge is going to be not going back into that resentment mode. Like the moon going opposite Uranus is, let's say you just kind of emotionally drain yourself. I have this resentment over this person. Let me just let it go. Well, then that person gives you a call and just fucking tells you what's up. That's going to be the moment where you get to grow into the thing that you want to, right? Are you going to regress and go, you know what? Fuck you, blah, 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 blah. Or are you going to go, you know what? Like, I don't care. Like, let's just move past this. And as the moon goes opposite Uranus, there'll be this big disruption that's going to throw you off, and it's going to challenge you to hold true to what you said that you're going to do. And then the moon's going to square Saturn. It's going to feel like there's going to be a cement wall put in front of you where it's like, well, gosh, now that this happened, I can't move forward with the thing I wanted to. It's like someone's going to ruin your day. You're going to be like, it's Tuesday. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Then someone's going to ruin your day. And one of my favorite things is on like TikTok and Instagram Reels, that audio that's like, don't let anyone ruin your day. Be a man. Ruin it yourself. That's how I want you to look at Tuesday. If you're going to ruin your day, ruin it yourself, but you're just going to have a little pity party and it's only one person and it's you. And as the moon squares Saturn, it's one of those things of, I hate to say it, time heals all wounds. This is one of those things of if you just be patient, let yourself go through the process of, like I sit in your emotions, sit in your baggage for a minute, but then don't let that baggage just get in your way. Like, don't be like, oh, now I'm emotionally upset and now I have this wall and now I can't go anywhere. It's like, you can be emotionally upset, you can be distraught, but just let that energy flow through you until it flows out of you and then move on. So the way I would look at this is while you might have this fun energy and this excitement to move forward, we're not moving forward yet. That's what the new moon is for. This is one more process where it's like, for example, if you've ever been excited to go on a trip or a journey and you're like, all right, I'm ready to go. But then if you're going with friends, they're like, wait, I need this one more thing. Wait, I need to go and do this. Wait, I need to go and do that. And you can be mad and upset of like, no, I want to, if you're like me, if you got Capricorn placements, you're like, no, I need to go right now. This is the time I chose to go. You can be upset and mad about it, but that doesn't do anything to help you. This is a great day to practice patience of like, hey, it's not gonna, like, you might have that energy like encapsulating you of like wanting to go, wanting to explore, wanting adventure, but we're not there yet. That's not what Tuesday's for. Tuesday is for like feeling it and getting yourself ready for that moving forward energy. That's what Wednesday's for. Wednesday is the day that you're looking for because the moon will make a trine to Jupiter early in the morning. So the moon in the later degrees of Scorpio making a trine to Jupiter, right? We like that. Then the moon goes into Sagittarius. And then we have that new moon in Sagittarius, and pretty much within the same hour, Jupiter stations direct. Wednesday is the day you're looking for. As the moon makes this trine to Jupiter, well, maybe not early in the morning, it'll be later in the afternoon now that I'm actually looking at this. But as the moon is at those last degrees of Scorpio and it's trining Jupiter, something I like about the Scorpio-Pisces axis is like, Scorpio is like pain, resentment, I'm angry, and Pisces like, but why? Like, I feel like Pisces is one of the only signs that can actually get to Scorpio to like make them feel a little emotionally better. And I think as the moon's in Scorpio trining Jupiter and Pisces, there's a lot more strength and restraint. There's a lot more strength in forgiveness. There's a lot more strength in having emotional control. And as the moon trines Jupiter, I think this is an excellent opportunity to go, you know what? Like, I do feel this way, but I'm going to use this energy and transmute this energy into something positive. Because later on that day, we have that new moon in Sagittarius. Let's talk about that for a second. New moon, we're resetting things, we're clearing things up, clearing things out. This is Sagittarius. What is our aim? Where are you going? This is the time to prep for 2023. In my opinion, you should have been prepping for 2023 a while ago, but this is the new moon in Sag. What are you doing next year? What are you doing with your life? And a lot of people, it's really, the spiritual community is really funny. I've gotten some shit of being like, I'm too hustle culture. It's like, no, you need like goals. You need a vision. You need something to do. Why would Sagittarius be a fucking zodiac sign if having a vision and a goal wasn't important? Why would Capricorn be a zodiac sign if having plans and working those plans and having your due diligence wasn't important? Like, the idea of hustle culture and how that's toxic is literally just people being brainwashed to like want to do nothing. You should be doing something. You should be providing value. You should be giving. Sagittarius is all about being abundant and being giving. You have to see what is it that you want to create in this world and how can you give it? Right? That's a big part of this because there's so much Sagittarius and Pisces energy here. There's all this Jupiter stuff. Be jovial, be giving, be forgiving, be grateful. God, so many of you need to be more practice gratitude. Some of you have shitty lives and you can have the shittiest life ever. Something I get all the time is every now and then on my client intake form, someone will be like, this is probably the worst chart you've ever seen, haha. And I kind of get a little offended because it's like people would pay money for your birth chart. Do you know how many fucked birth charts I've seen? And when I say fucked, I mean like, wow, this is actually really hard. And then I see someone be like, oh, my chart's so hard. It's like, you have it so easy on an astrological level. Again, that's just my opinion of your chart, given all of the other charts that I've seen. But the way I want you to look at it is someone easily has it worse than you. And that's not to belittle your problems, but you need to be grateful that you have your problems because you don't want other people's problems. If you got a room of everybody else and everyone put their problems in a bucket, you would take yours back. Your problems are definitely easier to deal with than a lot of other people's problems. And it's okay to be, upset about your problems. And it's okay to, not enjoy everything that you have going on. But right now, the astrology is showing to, just fucking get over it and just be grateful. Like the Scorpio stuff, we're done with the resentment. We're done with the pain. We had our time for that. Now it's time to look at the bigger picture. Now it's time to be a little bit more grateful and hopeful. And as this new moon's in Sagittarius, what is your vision? What is your plan? What is your aim? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to achieve? This is something I've talked about a lot, and it's a philosophy I really practice, is Socrates, and I might get these names mixed up, but if you guys know this, I'd actually really want to know in the comments so I can get this right. But I believe it was Socrates that said, in life, you're either growing, there's growth, stability, and then decay. But Plato argued that there is no stability in life. There is either growth or decay. It's the same thing as a tree. A tree is either growing or dying. And so if you're looking for stability in life, it's not there. But my argument here is that you're either decaying, you're either going down, or you're going up. The down part was the Scorpio stuff, right? Look how many things symbolize. We have the South Node there. We had eclipses. Scorpio is already about going down anyway. It's time to go up. It's time to go into growth mode. It's time to just believe. And so as we go into this new moon in Sagittarius, what are you going into? What are you growing into? Where do you want to, what does growth look like for you? Does that look physically? Does that look mentally? Does that look spiritually? Does that look financially? What is it? And now Jupiter is red right here, but Jupiter stations direct. The ruler of the sun, moon, Mercury, and Venus at this moment is in its home sign, and it finally moves direct. It is starting to move forward. There is this sort of like spiritual click that happens with Jupiter and Pisces. I feel like Jupiter stationing direct in Pisces is, have you ever had a time where you try to meditate and it's really hard, but then you just kind of like really did the work, really silenced yourself, and then you had, I don't want to say that spiritual breakthrough, but like had a powerful meditation moment. That's what this is. With Jupiter stationing direct, it's like, okay, like I do believe in myself. I do have this faith. As Jupiter's come back into Pisces, there's been this sort of restored faith. Isn't there like a Star Wars movie with that title? I can't think of it. But as Jupiter's been back into Pisces and it's been retrograde, we've been re-examining, hey, what is our truth? What do we believe? And is our belief like in vibrational alignment with our goals? As Jupiter stations direct, there is this sense of, okay, I know what my vision is. I know what my goal is. Now it's time to attune myself to that frequency, right? Like everything is all about frequencies, by the way. Like that's real shit. I know some people like to be like, that's all. It's real stuff. And so as this new moon happens in Sagittarius and Jupiter stations direct, this is the time to take a big jump and just trust. You don't need it. And that doesn't mean, oh, am I going to make it? You just need to trust whatever happens is for your highest good. Something I love, like I talked about my contract last week and how like a part of it was like, I need to be a trusting man. Especially with astrology, I mean, astrology is a huge tool I use to trust, but like, I can't tell you how many shitty things I've been through that in that moment, I was like, it can't get worse than this. That in hindsight, I looked back on and said, that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And this is one of those times of, you need to recognize that you don't need to trust whatever it is. You don't need to trust that you're going to land where exactly you think you're going to land. You need to trust that you just need to jump. And wherever you do land, or if you don't land, if you miss, that is for your good. That is for a reason. Everything is for a reason. This life is not meaningless. That's why I can't stand atheists. But you have to just trust yourself and trust whatever process it is to jump. You don't need you don't need that confirmation that you're going to land where you think you're going to land. You're going to land where you're supposed to land. And so I just want you on Wednesday, have my voice in your head. Don't fucking worry about it. Just jump. Just try it. Trust the process. You don't need to trust. You don't need to Mercury and be like, well, what if I don't land here? Well, what if this happens? And well, what if that happens? Just trust it. Get over that stuff. If you want to do all the Mercury rationalizing, we have that for Aquarius season. We have that for Gemini season. This is Jupiter stuff right now. Be Jupiter. Don't think about it too much. Just do the fucking thing, okay? As we get to Thursday, the moon will make a conjunction to Venus and then Mercury, and then it will go opposite Mars. So this is where it gets a little bit more challenging and we get a little bit more into our rational minds, but I love Thursday morning as the moon conjoins Venus and it conjoins Mercury. The moon, we're talking about our emotions, what we're connected to. It's going to conjoin Venus. We're like, this is so much fun, freedom. Like, have you ever like ran away as a kid? Like I ran away one time as a kid. I didn't get that far with it. Like I wasn't like hardcore about it. Like I was just like I was just pissed off at my my, parents for a bunch of, fucking stupid reasons. And I ran away, and it felt so good for the first 5 minutes. And then, afterward it got a little depressing, but the first 5 minutes of running away is awesome. Like, think of, like, have you ever left, like, if you have, like, a little dog, I feel like little dogs do this more than big dogs, but you leave the front door open and they just fucking zoom out and you can just see the freedom in their eyes. That's how I want you to feel on Thursday. And the moon conjoining Venus this is so much fun. And then the moon conjoins Mercury. And there's this sort of like, the only issue I have with the moon conjoining Mercury is like, you're going to be like, wow, I finally understand it. But that's the trick of Mercury. Mercury's the trickster. It's like, no, you're just in the vibe. Like, you're not actually understanding it right now. Now, on Thursday in the morning and throughout the early afternoon, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of excitement on moving forward. But then the moon is going to go opposite Mars. And this is where it gets a little bit more challenging. Because as the moon's in Sag and it wants to move forward, Mars is retrograde in Gemini. It's like, well, do I go this way or do I go that way? Do I do this or do I do that? Well, what time is it? Well, do I have any food? This is where the rationalization part gets a little bit difficult. And this is why this is a much better time for planning and visioning, not necessarily doing something, if that makes sense. Like, this is much better for creating that vision and having the plan for the vision. Now, if you're like, if you're like making plans and figuring out what your target is, this is a good day to figure out like the problems with that, right? An idea might sound really good on paper, but then you maybe speak about it and then you're like, wait, actually there are problems. So Thursday is a really good day to really look for solutions in terms of like, okay, or I should actually say look for problems. Like, okay, is there a problem in your plan? Is there a problem with where you're going? Because the hopes and the dreams are a really good way to push you off the cliff. But then after that, you do got to figure some stuff out. Now, this energy is best used really going over like, Mars retrograde in Gemini is if you've ever had a court session or a court hearing, and I think lawyers do this too, where they practice questions with you. They're like, okay, where were you on this day? Where were you on this time? And you have to practice these arguments. You have to go over them in your head. And maybe it's not an argument, but it's a problem of some sort. You need to, like Moon and Sagittarius is think farther, like, okay, sure, if you have this plan to start a business and you're like, I'm just going to start and it's going to be great. You got to ask yourself, okay, if I start this business, all right, what's the first issue I'm going to look into? What's the first issue I might experience? What if I experience this issue? What if I experience that issue? And it's not necessarily about having the right answer right in that moment, but it's about asking the right questions. As the moon in Sagittarius goes opposite Mars in Gemini as well, I think that your emotional, like, fun tank might get depleted a little bit because Mars in Gemini might be asking too much questions. So the way I would look at this is everything in life is about balance. Have your fun, have your excitement, ask the right questions, have a little forward looking into like what problems you could occur, but don't overthink it. If you can't figure out the solution right then and there, drop it and put it off. Come back to it later. Like this is something I love in life. This is like such a life hack of like, if you have a project that you're working on or anything that you're working on and you have this issue that you can't get past, you can't move forward. If you just try to sit there and chop at it, it like gets worse and worse and harder versus if you just drop it, leave it alone, go and do something else and come back to it. Because your brain might have a better solution. It might have a easier way of thinking through whatever problem that you have. So I think that's what's good for Thursday. Like the moon in Sag is really good for avoiding things, like running away from things. So there is this kind of like, don't get too lost in all of the questions. This is a good day to like think about and have foresight over it, but don't just try to come up with the solutions all day long. Like this is just much more of Dave, like, yeah, that will be a problem. I'll come back to that later and drop it. Move on. Go have fun. It's that easy, guys. It's that fucking easy sometimes. Then as we get to Friday, the moon is then going to make a square to Neptune and Jupiter, and then it's going to move into Capricorn. So again, another little trick. The moon is going to be, again, making a square to Neptune and making a square to Jupiter. And as the moon's in Sagittarius squaring Neptune, there is this kind of like distrust that could come up. Sagittarius wants to have a target. Pisces doesn't. Pisces is like, your beingness is the target. Like Sagittarius is like, okay, I want to go to A to B. And Pisces is like, no, A to B is in here. And so you might get a little bit crossed up and get your little like wires crossed up a little bit. And it might feel, I wouldn't say overwhelming, but you might feel confused. You might feel a little lost. But not all those who wander are lost, as bumper stickers in Colorado would say. As the moon squares Neptune, this is one of those things of as you go, there might be this kind of, I don't want to say delusion. I feel like delusion is such a harsh word. I know I say it all the time. But as the moon squares Neptune, it's kind of like, are you perceiving things the right way? Is this what you want? I think you might have doubt. Like, when you start a new adventure and you go onto something, there's a lot of doubt that comes up. And as the moon squares Neptune, you kind of could be like, spinning yourself in circles in your head of like, is this the truth? Is this what I'm seeing? But as the moon makes this square to Jupiter, there's this kind of like, you have to put that aside. Like Neptune in Pisces is this lens that can kind of just distort things, and it can confuse you at first, but it's kind of like, again, I love making LSD and acid references, but it's like, if you're on acid and the walls are fucking moving up and down, you got to be like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm on drugs. That's not actually what's happening. Like, my vision is distorted, and that's not what the truth is, and I've got to just trust the process. It's the same thing if for all the people that are like, I had a really bad shroom trip, or I had a really bad like acid trip. You're just letting things take over your mind, and this is a really good practice in like overcoming the fear that can what's the word I'm looking for? The fear that can overcome you when it says like what you're looking at in the outside world isn't matching up what you thought was going on inside. So as the moon squares Neptune, not everything's going to be the way that you thought that you saw it. But as the moon squares Jupiter, it's going to be a challenge to say, you know what? I see this. It doesn't make sense, but I'm going to still trust it anyway. I'm still going to move forward anyway. You're fine. Then as the moon goes into Capricorn, though, there is a little bit of that like again, a little bit of the bubble bursting, but again, the best way for this is like moon in Capricorn. Check out. Like, it is so healthy to not have your emotions involved in everything that you do. Take your emotions out of it and do the work that needs to be done. For example, maybe not an LSD analogy is good for this, but let's say you're hiking and you're going by yourself, which maybe isn't always the best thing for you. There could be this kind of fear comes up, but it's like if you stick to the trail, you stick to the plan, you're going to be fine. And I think the moon in Capricorn is like, stop worrying about it, stop getting anxious about it, and just stick to the plan, right? Just do what you know that you have to do. And the moon in Capricorn is great for getting work done, being productive, making a plan, sticking to that plan. Sagittarius is about having the dream, and Capricorn is like, let's write that down in paper. Let's actually write, like, Capricorn's all about structures and systems. What is your system that you're going to use to take on that dream? And this is also a waxing moon, right? Where the moon is starting to increase in light. So again, build a plan, build a structure, build a system that is going to allow you to get that goal that you've already set. And then we get to Saturday, moon trines Uranus. I've already told you. I should stop saying that I bitch and complain about it. It's just not that big of a deal. And I think as the moon's in Capricorn, maybe this is like I was saying a minute ago, if you're struggling with the project and if you just put it off and come back to it later, come back to it on Saturday. Because the moon's in Capricorn, your emotions aren't going to be so tied to it, and the moon's going to trine Uranus. You might go, oh, innovation, solution, I figured it out. Boom. That easy. Saturday is really good. So what day was it that I was talking about? I think I was talking about on like Thursday. You might need to put something off for the side for a minute. Come back to it Saturday and see what happens. Let me know in the comments too what you think is going to be happening. Make sure you also like this video if you like this video. It really does actually help me out. And comment for the algorithm too. I love those comments that are just for the algo. Then we get to Sunday. The moon will conjoin Pluto, and it will sextile Jupiter, and then it will go into Aquarius. So again, more fear stuff coming up here. But something I love about Pluto is you could take fear and be afraid, or you could transmute that into power. Pluto is a two-way street. It's either fear or power. And it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. You got to let that power, human beings are such powerful creatures. And if you don't use that power, it eats you alive. And I think this is a great day to recognize what your power is and use it. Because as the moon conjoins Pluto, there might be this anxiousness, this might be this scarcity, but you're just gonna have to do the fucking damn thing. You're gonna be facing, the king of the underworld, Pluto, and if you're gonna be playing poker with the devil and Pluto, you got to come with your poker face, and you got to run them for their money, not let them run you. And I think that's what Sunday's good for. Is you might feel like you might be in a position where there's like this fear, this angst, or these bigger issues that are coming up. It's not just like you're afraid of things in the moment, but it's like childhood stuff is coming up, and well, what about the economy and stuff like that. You have to not tune into that frequency, because the moon conjoins Pluto and it sextiles Jupiter. There is this sort of rolling the dice and not rolling sevens, or not rolling, what is it, fours in craps? I think it's sevens and 11s. I can't remember. Let me know. What is it in craps? Let me know. But as the moon sextiles Jupiter, there is this kind of hope. There is this faith. There is this just trusting and take a risk, gamble a little bit. And this isn't about putting all of your money on the line and, putting all your, bets on black. But this is like, if you're like, what's that saying? If you're going through hell, keep on going. Keep on going. This is one of those things of like, you just kind of have to keep it moving. Now, once the moon sextiles Jupiter, I think it's going to be like, oh, wow, that was way easier to get through. Wow, that actually wasn't that bad. But then at Sunday, we get to the moon moving into Aquarius. And then we'll talk more about that next week because the moon will eventually conjoin Saturn. But something I like about the moon, and this is what will happen next week, is it's going to be making a sextile to Venus, Mercury. It's going to be trining Mars. And yes, it'll conjoin Saturn. But as the moon goes into Aquarius, this is, again, kind of looking at things through a bigger perspective, through a bigger picture, being a little bit more cold and rigid, but also fixed in that. Like the moon in Capricorn is like, yeah, I need to be serious. But the moon in Aquarius is like, I am serious. Like it's very like detached, like emotionally. So as the moon goes into Aquarius later on Sunday evening, this is going to be having our emotions more connected to society at large, bigger ideas at large, social control, all of the things that I've already talked about enough with the moon in Aquarius. But I'll talk more about that next week. But good golly gosh, guys, next week, Mars trine Saturn. Mercury's going to sextile Saturn. Mercury goes opposite Mars. Venus goes opposite Mars. Venus sextile Saturn. Mercury squares Neptune. And Venus squares Neptune. Holy shit. Next week has so many things going on. This is when the pinball action happens. We're going here, we're going there. This is when a lot more stimulation happens. So the important thing is this week is with this new moon, get your vision together. Next week, it's going to be like this changes, that changes, this changes. And we can argue all day long whether these are good or bad, but I think everyone's going to experience them differently, right? Some of this is going to be good. Some of this is going to be bad for each and one of us. But what I like about next week is it's like we need these oppositions to Mars for things to happen. We need these squares to Neptune, right? Because Mars is in Gemini and the Jupiter-Neptune thing in Pisces is going on, Mercury and Venus is going to bring that more down to earth, and it's going to kind of not necessarily complicate things, but if Mars in retrograde and Gemini squaring Neptune has been like, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that, this is where the answers kind of work themselves out a little bit more. And again, they may not always be clear, but at least like information is being given to you rather than you just kind of thinking about everything. And that's this week, guys. Those are my final thoughts. I think I kind of killed it on this one. So I love and appreciate every single one of you. Make sure you like this video. And don't forget, 2023 year ahead consultations. Make sure you use the coupon code 2023 when you check out. I would love to do a consultation with you guys, let you know what is going on for the year ahead and get you prepped and ready for it. And with that being said, I love and appreciate you guys, and I'll be seeing you next week.